So here we are on our coach training adventure. I wanted to share this quote that is from Heraclitus that says, "There is nothing permanent except change." Nothing permanent except change. We stand in the midst of change. And it seems that in today's world, change has magnified in the sense that there seems to be a heightened velocity and an acceleration of change. This change that we see collectively, globally, that's happening, right? We see a change in terms of the speed of new technology, global connectivity that has not existed historically, where local news becomes global news instantly. And then we also have a sense of so much information, right? We have more information than we've ever had. And so it can be a sense of overload at moments and at times. We have the beeping and the pinging and all these things that are happening between social media and emails and all of it. And we've got climate change, right? We have extreme change in weather patterns that are happening. And then we have political polarization, right? We see people with this lack of communication, a lack of listening. So all of these pieces are happening. And it can often, right, have a sense of this haze of disorientation with all that's going on. And so we have our own personal dilemmas and challenges, but then we also have the collectives that are happening, and we're grappling with all of that, all of those factors that are unknown. So we're contending with uncertainty and disorientation. And so as we experience the dissolution of, in many ways, a world that we knew, there's also at the same time an emergence. Right? There is a dissolution, a demolishment of something that's happening, but there's also something that is arising, something that is being born, something that is becoming, a birthing of some sort. We look at that big context that we're in, and one of the things that we've been doing here is that we're beginning to question what once was our obvious realities. And so we begin to question. So I'll share a little story. So it's a wintry, cold day, right? And there's a 30-something-year-old father, and he's delighted to spend some precious time with his family, and he's cooking the familiar Thanksgiving dinner for his family. And he cuts off the legs of the turkey, and he puts it in the pan, right, for it to roast. And he has this cooking with his little 7-year-old daughter, and she's got these little cute rosy cheeks, and she's all enthusiastic and excited. And she asks her father, she says, "Daddy, why did you cut off the legs of the turkey?" And the father says, "It's just what we've always done." But then his daughter's question, right, lingers in his mind. And so he decides that evening, when he speaks with his mother on the phone, to ask her. And he says, "Mom, why have we always cut the turkey legs off before we roast it?" She says, "I don't know, it's just what we've always done." But then luckily, her mother is still alive. So she asks her mother, and she says, "Mom, why do we always cut the turkey legs before we put it in the pan?" And the mother replies, and she says, "Because we never had a pan large enough to hold the entire turkey." Yeah. And so here's a story of an obvious reality that's been passed down through the lineage. And it can be something so simple and so ordinary as how we cook or an action we take. But there's so many of these little pieces that begin to build in how we engage with everyday life, right? And some have little consequence and some have enormous consequences. So part of what we offer in this community at Newfield is an opportunity for us to inquire to be like that little 7-year-old enthusiastic little girl who dares, right, to ask questions, to check in, rather than simply taking things for granted. And so this capacity that we have for reflection, for inquiry, allows us to see things in a new light. And this is at the heart, right, of our new field experience. When we look at our meta model, when we look at the OR model, it's precisely what we're doing, right? We're taking a look at how we look. We are inviting ourselves to notice the observer we are, and to notice how that observer came into being. What is the living history that is moving through us in order for us to be that observer? What is shaping that epistemic lens? Is it our father, our mother, our grandparents, our great-grandparents? Right? All of that, our experiences, our enthusiasm, our boredness, right? All of it is coming into play to influence the observer that we are and the actions that we take. Our interactions, our practices, our behaviors. Even in this moment, how are you listening to these words? Right? We're just noticing. Oh, I've heard this before. I already know this. Or, oh, I'm hearing it slightly different this time. Or, oh, it's landing in my heart in a new way. Or, oh yeah, it's reminding me of this experience I just had. Yeah? So we notice that observing, and then what is the action? What is the interaction, the engagement? How are we meeting and encountering this world? Are we bringing forth fear from the past, from this moment? Are we bringing forth gratitude? Is it a blend of both and then some? Yeah. So we're really taking this capacity to see all of the dimensions and then noticing what realities appear. Yeah? What realities appear as we engage with life in this particular way? And do those realities serve? And who do they serve? Do they serve our children? Do they serve our ancestors? Do they serve the collective? Which collective? So we're recognizing, right, the beauty and the fullness of this OR model. And through these past 4 months, we've taken time to have a radical revision of self, looking at the intrapersonal aspect, right? Not just a cognitive understanding, but a full-bodied reflection. And we're recognizing, right, that there is a constant unfolding. There's a constant unfolding of who we are and who we are becoming. There's a constant unfolding of realities and worlds that we are all co-creating. An unfolding of our practices, of our behaviors. How have your practices today shifted from 2 months ago, or 4 months ago, or a year ago? How are we engaging and meeting life differently now? And then, as I've been mentioning, when we look at the observer, we recognize all these different components of being an observer. Our body, our emotions, our language, our cultures, our inner ecology, outer ecology, our developmental perspectives, our history. All of those aspects get woven together. And so we have many domains to explore and inquire into. And so we can see that this observer, right, lives in what we can call Holonic cognizance, which means that this observer is not an isolated individual, but rather is situated in culture, in history, in multiple collectives. Our familial collective, organizational collective, right? Maybe religious collective or spiritual collective, or learning collectives, nations, right? Etc. So we recognize that this individual is also part of a collective. So here we've been cultivating our own capacity for change. Yeah? If change is magnified, if change is speeding up, then how do we be in the presence of such change? And how do we be change agents, right, that are creating change that serves?